we have this initiative happening here in 2011 when Sundance is coming to Puerto Rico through the Sundance Film Forward. And we have the opportunity to share with successful and talented international filmmakers.
From Sundance's perspective, from the festival, as director of programming, I'm in charge of selecting the films that are shown at the festival. And I had this realization that we've never shown a film from Puerto Rico. And I think that's, I'd like to change that. And the one way of doing that is to having a stronger and deeper connection with the filmmaking community here. From the festival's perspective, I was very excited to come here and to engage in the filmmaking community here in Puerto Rico.
Or it could mean that we go to a place like Puerto Rico, which was high on our list, and so we chose it for this year one of the program, because independent film doesn't get to Puerto Rico the way it does in the mainland. So giving everybody here an opportunity to see these films, learn about these different cultures through the film, and have discussions with the filmmakers. Then we're also concerned with the student and the youth audience. That those are our next generation of leaders and citizens and thinkers and maybe filmmakers, and so it's really important that their voices are heard.
I thought maybe the first thing that my ability to respond to was the question about sort of maybe how we define why we think our films are independent, and what we think that means. And, you know, on a bad day I have a really ornery, mean-spirited checklist of why I think my film, or I'm part of an independent movement, and on a good day it feels so, you know, it's good reasons, it's reasons that get me going and excite me, and then weird conundrums happen that implicate you in something you didn't expect, and then you've got your mother telling you try to make lemonade from it, you know, like, I'll get to that punchline, why I included that. You know, I think, so here's me being all feisty. The films that I get involved with are independent because they don't start with the idea that you're going to finance them from a known star. They're never going to be blockbusters. They don't aspire to be blockbusters. There's no need for them to be blockbusters, and they just can't be. They may involve stories that are not initially considered commercially appealing. And that may involve situations in life that are hard to, you know, see. You know, it's not that they're heavy, but it's not always considered lighthearted affair. I think another attribute would be that although we legally work within all the union confines that are very, you know, kind of intense in the United States, we really don't ever need a big list of bells and whistles to make the films we want to make. The film I want to make doesn't require specialized equipment. It doesn't require extenuating circumstances. The smaller the footprint can be of the crew, the tighter, the better for the kinds of films that I aspire to make, which would involve being in real locations. And basically, the last thing, of course, is who's your money, who's your ruler, who are you enslaved to, right? And the more money you borrow, the more money you ask from somebody, anybody, the more money you owe, and the more issues and control they have over what is considered appealing or good or interesting. And so it's not just the crew being small just for the sake of saying you can make a film with a small crew or a tight situation, but trying not to owe, and trying not to have to make your film so expensive that you need to please so many people. Making it smaller, finding an audience that likes it, but not having to blow through screens all over the world and dominate. Just, you know, a small audience that can connect.
On the documentary world, in the documentary world, to me, independent film, at least when I started this film, to me, being independent is about you start your film being a poor man, and by the end of the time you finish your film, you're still a poor man. So for documentary, that's quite likely, but I think what's more important is that in the end you told your story, and it's like Deborah said, it's not, it didn't start hoping that you're gonna make a film that's gonna win awards or make you a lot of money. You really had a story from your heart, and you just feel this urgency and anxiety to tell it to an audience. So that's what at least keep me going, or make me decide that I will devote whatever I have to make this film. And of course, you need a lot of support to realize your dream. And, I guess it's very easy to be independent when you're making a documentary film. I didn't have much international financing. At the time I began this project, I just talked to a friend in China who eventually became my Chinese producer. So I said, hey, I want to do this film, and what do you think? And so he gave me some money, and it's very small, it's like tiny money. I just got camera and all the really basic necessities to start filming. I also talked to my best buddy, who was a cameraman, to persuade him to work for me for free. And I don't know how long we're gonna have to do this. I can't pay you, but if you feel for the story, please help me. And I had my brother as my sound man, so I don't really have to pay him when I don't have money. I did eventually pay him. So we just started because we felt that this is a story that needs to be told with very little money. We followed this family we shot for almost a year and a half with virtually no money. So everyone is really putting in their hearts and their time, which I really appreciate. And then we were able to get some really good footage, and you're sort of starting to see the story, at least half of the story arc, you know, where the story might be going. Also based on all my research and how I kind of educate myself with the issue.
There hasn't been a film from Puerto Rico at Sundance. That's the first question.
I mean, there's a lot of circumstantial reasons why, too. I mean, we get thousands of submissions every year. We get over 4,000 feature films submitted to us every year. And we get over 6,000 short films submitted to us every year. And we have about 200 slots available to show. So about 120 features and about 80 shorts at the festival. So in one sense, there's a numbers game. We do strive to have good representation from different areas across the world in our international programming, and even within the US. So we are constantly looking for films from different regions, especially ones that maybe need a bigger platform to connect to audiences. So, you know, the numbers game is part of it. And then I wish I had a clearer vision of the collective body of work that's been coming out of Puerto Rico. I have to say I haven't seen that many films, so you know, it's part of me being here is going to sort of light a fire for me to, when the submissions do start coming in, to really, I'm actually going to go out of my way to pull out the films from Puerto Rico and to have a better understanding of the work that's being shown here. I think when I look at the regions around the world that are getting a lot of recognition, and like international festivals like Cannes, and Sundance, and Toronto, Berlin, there are all of a sudden there will be a hotspot of some place that all of a sudden starts to have a bigger representation than even their size would indicate. Places like, you know, in recent years, like Romania, in the last probably 5 or 6 years, has had a huge explosion of these really talented filmmakers and making really interesting films. And same with Australia recently, with a lot of success at Sundance with certain films. And I look at why those places, and a lot of it, I think, has to do with the collaboration that happens there. I think when filmmaking collectives form, there develops a sort of a weight, and they push each other, they help each other, but they also push each other. I think rivalries develop, and I think that's a good thing. And that's happened throughout the history of cinema. You like the French New Wave and other moments in time where there were artists pushing and helping each other. And I think that's something to think about here in Puerto Rico, to establish that community around filmmaking. Filmmaking is such a collaborative art form. You need help.
Yeah.
More so than even some of the other arts.